I started a wee bit early. Good evening from my living room. My name is Robin Roberts. I work for Mono County Behavioral Health, and you're tuned into Coping in a COVID World, the New Normal. We're going to talk tonight about managing stress, chronic stress, with Allison King, and she will introduce herself a little bit more. We have a panel of community members and elected officials and neighbors and friends. And we really hope that you'll set yourself up here in our question and answer. You'll see a Q&A on your screen. You can type in your questions, comments. You can be anonymous or not. Also, we're on Facebook Live, and we just love having you out there. Thank you. I want to start, though, just with a shout out. I know a lot of us have neighbors and or have friends and loved ones who might be coping with all of the many fires that are going on throughout California right now. And tonight, I think we'll be talking about managing stress, and that should be helpful for all of us. But just really sending out my heart-filled condolences and just, wow, I wish we could help to all of you out there, because I know this is a really hard time. So, Allison, we're going to start with you. Thank you for joining us again. It's really nice to see you. And
absolutely.
You're on.
Thank you for having me. Great. Hi, thank you for having me again. My name is Allison King, and I'm a clinical social worker, and I work for HealthNet/Managed Health Network, which is the behavioral health provider for HealthNet members. And I'm also a yoga instructor and do mindful meditation coaching a little bit on the side. So do a little bit of variety of different things. So today we're going to talk about managing stress. But before we start to talk about anything, I wanted to start with breathing. And we're going to be doing some breathing a little bit later on, but I want to start with something really simple just to begin, okay? It's called diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing. So I invite you to take one hand and put it on your chest, and your other hand to put it on your belly. I will show you where I'm talking about, like this. And we're just going to take 3 breaths, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you breathe in, you'll feel your belly rise, and as you breathe out, you'll feel your belly fall. So we'll try to do this together. Okay, breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. One more time. Breathe in. Breathe out. So I just wanted to start off with that as a way to sort of set the tone for what we're going to be talking about today. So there's a Buddhist saying that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And you don't have to be Buddhist to think about that and really try to understand it on a deeper level. Stress causes a lot of suffering, causes a lot of pain, and it causes a lot of suffering. And that suffering can lead to a myriad of health conditions. So we're going to talk about that and ways to manage stress. So you can go to the next slide. So I'm starting out with what I call my agenda. Because I have a sort of a personal and professional agenda regarding what I'm going to be talking about today. One of my views of the world is that there's a natural order and balance in things. And I believe that with every bad, there comes a good. That being said, there are some things that aren't so terrible about this pandemic. And I'm not trying to build something that's horrible. I'm just trying to change the frame of it a little bit. A lot of things are being born out of this pandemic. So for those of us not on the front lines, I would say life for some of us has become a little bit less hectic for some of us. If you have small children, that's not necessarily the case. But a little less hectic. Families are connecting in all kinds of ways that they haven't before. And I don't just mean by video conferencing format, but I mean in terms of relationship and communication and interacting and spending time together in different kinds of ways. Communities are coming together, like this is a perfect example. Communities are coming together to help those who are less fortunate. Pollution is going down. So there are some things that are happening that aren't so horrific. As a mental health professional, which I am, one of the things that the byproducts of this, what I'm going to call the New World Order, is this open dialogue about worry and fear and stress, which we're talking about today, and the importance of self-care, which I talked about last time, and how practices like mindful meditation are becoming part of our everyday conversation, which is wonderful. So now I'm just going to give you my little soapbox, and this is why I call it my agenda. If it were up to me, the whole world would practice mindful meditation. In Allison's perfect world, it would be built into every professional training program, especially those that are very highly stressful. Better yet, it would be required learning for everyone starting in primary school. So I just put this up here because, as you can see, the kids on their desk, and that's from the Toronto Police Force, and this was put up on the internet after all of the recent riots that were happening because of George Floyd, and obviously the military, and then some frontline personnel. So this is an important thing, I think, for everybody, especially now to start talking about these kind of things and how we can build it into our lives. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this is the agenda for the presentation, which is what is stress and the impact, and then some talking about managing chronic stress or managing stress in general, doing a short practice, and then followed up with a little resources at the end. Okay, next slide. Okay, so what is stress? It's basically emotional and psychological reaction or response either to an actual event that's occurring or it could even be to a thought that we have. It's a state of anxiety, which happens when we really truly believe that something is beyond our control or our ability to manage or cope with whatever the situation is. And actually, stress is very normal. We all know, we all experience it, and it affects everybody. If the stressor is really more on the mild to moderate side, a healthy dose of it is, in a time-limited capacity, is actually not bad because it puts us into action, right? It makes us proactive. It makes us move. It makes us do what we need to do. But if it's severe or extreme, and if it extends for a long duration of time and becomes chronic, it can be really harmful to our overall health and well-being. Okay, next slide, please. So as you can see by this slide, stress impacts pretty much every system in our body. And our body alarm system, if we think about our body as an alarm system, it will alert us when we're stressed, even sometimes before our mind even registers that we're stressed out. Acute or mild to moderate stress shows up with symptoms like, we're all familiar with these, like sweating, increased heart rate, being fidgety, irritable, restless stomach aches, feeling depressed, feeling low, tired. These are all can be symptoms of stress. So if you think about it, if that happens for a long time, all those systems of the body that are telling us, hey, something's wrong, chronic stress can just wreak havoc on those body systems. And learning to pay attention to those signals as they come up is really key in terms of managing and keeping us from getting to that chronic state and impacting our health to that degree. Okay, next slide. So I'd like to give you a couple quick and effective ways of managing stress when you feel it. And that's when we talk about those immediate stress responses that come up. And it's available to all of us at any time. We carry it with us every single second of the day, and that's our breath, that's breathing. Talking about the biochemical and the specific physiological impact of breathing is kind of out of the scope of what I'm going to talk about today, but what we're doing today. But just really quickly, Conscious breathing, a conscious slowing of the breath and concentration of the breath triggers our brain to activate our parasympathetic nervous system, which increases the body's relaxation response. And the way it does that is it decreases stress hormones in the body. It lowers our heart rate. It lowers our blood pressure. It relaxes our muscles. It increases mental clarity, and so on and so on. There's tons and tons of benefits. And it's also, breathing's also the basis of, for mindful meditation, which we're going to go into more in a minute. So I want to talk about just 2 breathing exercises right now, which can help you at any time, anywhere. No one needs to know you're doing them. One of them is called equal breathing, okay? And the idea behind this is that your in-breath and your out-breath are for the same amount of time. So we're going to do this together for four breaths. We're going to do 4 counts so you can get a sense of what I'm talking about. So let's start by emptying all the breath out. And I'm going to have you take a breath in, and I'm going to count to 4. And then you're going to breathe out on the count of 4, either through your nose or your mouth, whatever's most comfortable to you. So we'll start. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the idea is just focus and slow your breathing down so you're having more control, conscious control over your in-breath and out-breath. Another way of using this same technique, but with a little bit more of an intense impact, is called box breathing, which is still counting 4, okay? But there's 2 additional things, which is holding the breath when your lungs are full, and then holding your breath basically when your lungs are empty. So it's counting 4 as you breathe in, counting 4 as you hold, counting 4 as you release, and counting 4 as it's empty. So we're going to do that 4 times so you can get a sense and feel about what that's like. So first, let all the breath out. And I invite you to close your eyes if you'd like to, because it's kind of nice to do it with your eyes closed. Let all the breath out. We'll start by counting to 4, breathing in. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4. No breath, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4. No breath, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4. No breath, 1, 2, 3, 4. Last time, breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4. No breath, 1, 2, 3, 4. I find when I do that, like 10 rounds of breath, it just is like, whew, brings you right down. So that's available to you at any time because we carry our breath with us, right? If you'd like to go to the next slide, please, I'm going to talk about something else, which is another basis for mindful meditation. So the 5 senses. Our senses are really an access point to the brain and the body, and helps bring us into the present moment. So using the five senses, as I said, it's also a mindfulness technique. It's called grounding. What I have for you here is what's called the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. And what this basically is when you're feeling stressed and your body's signaling, you can stop yourself and notice, put yourself in the present moment by looking around your environment and noticing and saying aloud or in your mind 5 things that you see. 4 things you can feel, right, that you can actually feel and touch. 3 things that you can hear. 2 things that you can potentially smell. 1 thing you can taste. And one thing that I often guide people to do is to name their top 2 senses and have a couple of immediate go-to things to be able to tap into those senses as a form of coping. For example, my top two are smell and sound. So when I'm like out of sorts and I'm in a bad way, I use essential oils. Or, you know, I put them on my hands, or I smell, or I have to have complete silence because that's my other really strong sense. So I either have to have complete silence or I stick my little AirPods in or whatever these things are called, and I listen to nature sounds. I listen to ocean sounds. That's my go-to. So, because I know that if I'm feeling stressed, that will help me in the moment, but it will also help me in the long run because I'm managing the impact of stress, what stress is having on my body. Okay, next slide, please. So I just wanted to talk a couple minutes about mindfulness and meditation because there's a difference. There's a lot of similarities and they overlap. But they're not interchangeable, and I think I probably use them interchangeably a lot. A lot of us probably use them interchangeably, but I just kind of wanted to clarify what the differences are. Well, first I want to talk about what they're not. Mindfulness is not about concentrating or thinking really hard and focusing on something really hard, intensely. And meditation is not about shutting down the mind or shutting it off like a switch, because that's almost impossible in some ways because our brain is doing its job all the time. It's thinking, it's moving, it's percolating, it's perseverating, or whatever it's doing its work. So it's more learning about how to manage our thoughts and acknowledge that they're happening and not let them overtake us. So as it says here, mindfulness is about being fully present and engaged with whatever you're doing, wherever you are, at that particular moment. So it's basically the idea of just be here now. Be here now. And it's paying attention, but trying to be free from distraction because you're focusing, free from judgment, and just paying attention to those thoughts and feelings without getting caught up in them and just saying, oh, there's my mind. It's doing its job. Thank you, mind. You're working, you're running, you're thinking, thank you, but I'm going to be paying attention to this beautiful, I'm looking out my window, I have hummingbirds. Look at this beautiful hummingbird who's eating out of the feeder, right? So you're consciously being in the present moment. Meditation is actually it's an activity. It's a formal practice of finding inner peace and calm by reducing that mental chatter as your brain is doing its job. Mindful meditation is basically practicing being in the moment while you are doing the activity of meditating. So it's moment-to-moment awareness that you're trying to gain through the activity of meditation. So paying attention to the breath and tapping into the 5 senses are some of the foundational aspects of mindful meditation. And the key impact of mindfulness is stress reduction. And psychological stress has been tied to physical health, as I said before, and as you know, I think we all know this. And mindfulness meditation, not only does it tangibly reduce stress because you can feel it when you're practicing it, you can feel it at work, but it's also what we call an evidence-based practice because it's been shown through science, through research, through numerous studies in many ways how it is good for your physical health. It lowers your blood pressure, reduces risk of heart disease, slows cognitive decline, which I really was surprised to hear that even for people suffering from Alzheimer's, it can help slow the cognitive decline. It improves our immune system, which we all need right now, right? And it reduces cell aging. There's all kinds of wonderful things, benefits. And in my mind, I'm thrilled that there's science to now back up this age-old, 5,000-year-old, practice. And now in the contemporary society in modern day, there's science to show that it really does work and have amazing benefits to health and well-being. So to close out here, I just wanted to spend maybe 3 minutes, if that's okay, doing a very short mindful meditation with you all. You can go to the next slide if you need a visual. So we're just going to do a little bit of a practice, okay? I'm going to time it just because I'm not great at timing in my head. Okay, hold on here. Let me go back. All right. So hopefully everyone is sitting. Get comfortable in your chair or in your seat. I'm going to start my little timer. Okay. I invite you to close your eyes. Breathe deeply in and out through your nose. Feel your sitting bones as they're rooting down into your chair. I invite you to notice the sense of your skin, the air surrounding your body. Is it cold from the air conditioner, the fan? Is it warm? Feel the difference between where your clothes are touching your body versus your bare skin. I invite you to notice sounds that you hear in your environment in the distance. Maybe you hear a car or an air conditioning unit or a dog or voices. Your mind may start to chatter and to run, and that's okay. As your mind starts to wander, just thank your mind and say, I'm going to breathe. Focus back on your breathing. As you breathe in and out slowly through your nose, is the air that comes in a little cooler? Notice if that's the case. And as the air leaves your body, is it a little warmer? As your eyes are closed, what do you see behind your eyelids? Do you see moving shapes? Do you see colors? Do you see blackness? Anytime your mind starts to wander, bring it back to your breathing. Sometimes continuing to count to that equal breathing of counting 4 counts in and 4 counts out as you sit quietly and use your 5 senses to notice things that are around you can help you stay focused on your breath. What is the taste in your mouth? Does it taste stale? Does it taste sweet from some gum or coffee? Again, focus back on your breath, in and out. When you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes, almost as though you're waking up in the morning, or the sun, like your eyes are the sun rising in the horizon. Thank you for participating in that brief meditation. On the last slide, I have for you some resources about mindfulness. I have provided these before, but I threw them up here again. Some really great apps to help you learn and practice. I highly recommend that online class at the bottom there through UCLA Mark Center. It's terrific. And it can teach you some of the basics of mindfulness and mindful meditation, which hopefully you guys will have some interest in after this, because it does, and hopefully we got a little bit of a taste of what it feels like to sort of tap in a little bit. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Allison.
You're welcome. And I see Ingrid is doing her mindfulness with eating, mindful eating.
She's spending a lot of time.
There is such a thing. Yeah, mindful eating is great. Okay.
So you're tuned into the new normal, coping in the COVID world. We come at you or with you every other Wednesday. You can also check us out on Facebook Live through the Behavioral Health, Mono County Behavioral Health. And we do have a Q&A you'll see on your computer, and would love to see questions, thoughts, comments, anything you might want to add, things you want us to talk about in the future. But we're here for you. So how's everybody doing this week? Well, now you're all mindful, and the chips were helpful.
They were
Before
helpful.
the mindful, how are you doing, and how are you doing with your stress, and how are you sleeping? Panel.
It's hot. So on top of everything else, it's hard to sleep because we think it's hot. I think 80 degrees is hot now. I used to live in LA. 80 degrees would have been beautiful. But I think it's hot and it's hard to sleep because nobody here has AC. So I don't know. I'm not sleeping well. And I think that's part of it. Allison, how hot is it where you are?
At least 100. Yeah. Maybe 102 today. I live in the hottest part of LA County. It's always the hottest and always the coldest. So it's pretty, so that's why I'm wearing very little. So I'm sorry if I couldn't handle the heat. I'm sleeping okay though, for the most part. The mindfulness helps, for sure.
How about the rest of you?
Yeah, I think it's an overwhelming week, right? We have the heat, we have the kids starting school, and then we have the fires and the smoke, and it's like, what's next? You know, it almost feels like it's a what is it, Final Destination movie here that we're living in 2020. So it seems like, man,
Armageddon. Yeah.
It does feel like that. And I came from Santa Cruz, so I have a bunch of family and friends who are really affected by this fire. Some people have lost their homes already. Mm-hmm. And then I started thinking, okay, I got to get a bag together. I mean, I know I'm supposed to be emergency prepared, but not exactly. So, I got to get a bag together because we also live in a tinder dry area. And boy, that lightning that we've been having has been phenomenal. And it's so dry here. And I don't know if being prepared, I have this reaction to wanting to be prepared that also makes me feel more anxious somehow. But then I think if I actually have to evacuate, if something terrible happens here too, then I'll be more anxious. I don't know. The brain is a funny place to live in. How are you, Supervisor Corliss? Good to see you.
Hi, my dog is barking a lot, so I'm just prepare yourselves for it. She wants
Is there a bear or?
I think it's just people, possibly a skateboarder, which is a really terrible thing when you're a big dog.
Nilla hates them.
Skateboarding is a crime, according to the It's a tough week, really feeling for our friends over on the coast. Sonoma's my favorite places, in West Sonoma, it's tough. And I think that is something though, when we go back to, what can we do? What can we control? We could put together that go bag.
Yeah, go bag and breathing. That's on my list for tonight. No,
I
really.
think that's a good point too, Supervisor Corliss, because I, you know, there's so much that we don't have control over right now. So those little things that are tangible that we can have impact on and that we can predict, it really does help actually manage the stress, to check it off your list, you know.
Even if it's just maybe putting one in a day, or even, okay, here's the bag, step one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I might have to order more things on the Amazon, like an extra charger, you know, things I might need for my to-go bag. Lyle, you stuck?
I'm going to go over to the DIY center, our local hardware store in Mammoth, and get stuff from my bag, because somebody also posted about these really cute unicorn-shaped coffee creamers, and suddenly I really feel like I need that. So maybe that might be a maladaptive coping mechanism, shopping, but.
All right, maladaptive. What is it that you want to get? A unicorn what?
A coffee creamer, like a ceramic coffee creamer, but instead it's in the shape of a unicorn. You know, sometimes they have them that are in the shape of a cow. It's in a unicorn. If anybody'd like one, I'll pick one up for you. Just, you know, give me the thumbs. You too can
I wish
have
I could know. I was
I'm
there.
still
earlier.
avoiding
It's not
stores.
maladaptive. Yeah, and it's not maladaptive coping if it's not hurting you or somebody else. So do no harm. It's a do no harm approach towards coping.
We'll have to see if she starts getting a whole bunch of them, then we'll know. It's not a
Then
good
we'll
thing.
know, yes.
How else
How
are you
many
all doing?
unicorns?
Go ahead.
Oh, and I was going to say, how many unicorns is too many unicorns? I don't know.
That's a question I don't know the answer to. Yeah.
We'll find
This will
out.
be my
I guess.
first, so it, you know.
How about the rest of you? Stephanie, talk to us a little bit about getting kids into school and how that's going. I know you're
Oh,
not quite
gosh.
there yet, but you're almost there.
Yeah, for us up here in North County, we the kids start tomorrow. So I know I've asked a lot of my other friends that are parents and they're doing the whole virtual learning thing, how they're doing, and I think we're all kind of nervous. None of us have ever done this before, and it's hard because now you have to put on a different hat. Now you have to put on the hat of an educator. So it really makes you appreciate teachers for what they do. You know, we haven't even started. So, I mean, and it really has made me kind of think about like what impact is this going to have on our kids, you know? I think that's something that, you know, we really haven't talked about is, you know, how our kids will be impacted. You know, I'm lucky that my daughter, she's only in 3rd grade, so I'm hopeful that she's got plenty of years to recover from my teachings, but, you know, we're excited. We're excited. We're setting up her workstation tonight, right? The day before. So, you know, that's my procrastination waiting the night before. But yeah, we set up a little corner in the office space for her, you know, just to have her supplies there. So, you know, just to encourage her and hopefully she's excited for, you know, the virtual experience.
Yeah, and I was talking about this before we started, and I had suggested to a colleague who has 2 kids who are elementary school age, I suggested that she takes a couple days off, like take some days as vacation, because it's so anxiety producing for her and also her kids to figure all this stuff out. So just on the front end, to take a couple days to really get it set up, so that way you can get a flow going of what the new routine is going to be for the kids and for yourself. Because to try to work, you know, if you're working and you're trying to teach and keep your kids on track and keep the household going, I mean, it's so much. It's so much. So you need time to ease in. I don't have little kids. I have teenagers, but if I had little kids, I probably would take some vacation time to try to get it all squared away before I lose my mind.
Yeah, my in-laws went the opposite way. They have a 8 and 10-year-old, and they just got a puppy last week. So they added to us
Oh, wow.
Oh,
as a distraction.
yeah.
Let me know how that works.
Yeah.
I'm willing to commit to a puppy if I
Some-
get good feedback.
Yeah, some boundless joy might not be a bad thing right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the boundless joy has to go
Yeah.
out to pee like 12 times a day, though. In the
Yeah.
night as well, by the way.
I think I saw a puppy at some puppies are at the animal shelter, the Mono County Animal Shelter stuff, just in case.
Yes, my daughter's been bugging me. I just haven't been. I'm kind of scared of the commitment, you know. But now that you mention it, Robin, getting up in the middle of the night 12 times to pee, I'm on the same boat. I'm quite at that point in my pregnancy, so I don't know.
Right.
It might actually work out, you know, having
No,
a
it
companion.
could be. Like we were talking about, you know, there are silver linings to all of this in different ways, things that we're gaining. And I think probably what's true for kids is the same thing that's been true for all of us being on Zoom, right? Like we went from seeing each other and all that social interaction, for better or for worse. I have been reading that some kids are doing better see, you want a puppy? Not having to go back to school because the social interactions at school were very stressful for them. So some kids are doing better, right? But then I think there's a you really
Is that
need
a
a puppy.
squeaky
See how
toy?
this is? Doozy. Thank you. So you totally lose your thought when you're dealing with COVID and dogs at the same time. By the way, how many dogs are too many dogs? That
I can tell you how many are too many cats.
Okay.
I can't
There's
tell
like
you
a
about
point
dogs.
of excitement around the beginning, and then there's going to be a point where it's just hard to do Zoom. And if you're doing the same thing every day, it's hard to stay in attention, you know?
Yeah.
Hey, you guys.
And I think that's what was happening with some kids too at the end of this last year, is that they fell behind, you know, because they weren't getting the same kind of instruction and no one was accustomed to it. So there is an educational impact on, you know, on them in terms of, are they going to be able to stay, you know, on track educationally in this kind of form? Because some kids do better. They do. I know some kids, a couple kids who have ADHD, and they can just get up and jump around and move around, and they're not distracting anybody. You know, it works well for them because they're not forced to sit in a chair all day long. But for a lot of kids, it's going to be really hard. You get computer fatigue, you get screen fatigue.
And also, I think for all of our working families where taking days off is not possible, or trying to manage more than one child in different grades, and it's a lot. And it's a weird thing to say that we should give ourselves a break and like do what we can, I think, because part of it is we don't know how long this was going to go on, and so we don't know really what that means. And part of it is that most of us aren't really set up that way. Like, we're supposed to get our kids through school or get to work and do all these other things. And I find that we're hearing a lot of people being really stressed about that, like juggling all of those responsibilities and feeling like you're not doing anything well enough. So, trying to maybe speak to that a little bit and support each other around that as much as possible. I just want to remind people that are here that we have a Q&A, also known as questions and answers. I am going to take that away in a minute. Questions and answers, and you can put comments or questions, thoughts, whatever you're thinking about right now. You can do it anonymously or not. And we're also on Facebook Live right now, so you can do it that way as well. And we would love to hear from you. We love the interaction. Kind of how are you doing? How are you sleeping? Things like that. What else?
I'm
I
wondering.
want to know how my electives are doing. You guys are just really in the limelight all the time, for better or for worse.
So I want to give Stacy some props, because she and I are in the same social circle on social media, and we both get called out and tagged in our personal profiles on people's rants. And I even had somebody post something on a picture I posted of carne asada calling me out on something, and it was Stacey's so much more gracious than I am. I just ignore people. I don't even acknowledge it. If you tag me in your rant, I'm not going to acknowledge you. Stacey's so much better at it. She's so much more patient. So props to you, Stace.
You handled the taco incident pretty well.
Taco
Upset
incident.
because there was perhaps an implication that people would come over for the tacos. And meanwhile, I'm texting Ingrid going, can I get some of those tacos when I came over? Yeah, no, it's tough. You know, we 2 weeks ago, we talked, Allison, and we saw it expressed in some of the Facebook Live comments we got just about anger. There was a lot of anger. What do you guys think out there? You think it's shifted?
I do feel a shift. I feel like people heard us either last Wednesday or the Thursday after when I said, if you have time to rant on Facebook, you have time to pick up a piece of trash. There's an organized effort now of people going out and making a difference and doing things, and it makes them feel better. It makes me feel better. I see them and I wave and I honk. I'm like, thank you for doing that. So I feel like maybe there is a little bit of a shift where people realize they were angry and that it was better to direct it somewhere. I still feel a lot of anger. I see a lot of anger and a lot of frustration, but it feels just a hair lighter. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think I would, not in me, it doesn't feel lighter. No, man, I was in a situation where I was going to take my dogs for a walk, and there were way more people there than I'm ever used to having. It's actually where I ran into you, Ingrid, recently. And there was just heaps of trash out there, and I feel enraged by that. And then I glare at people, and then I think, what are you doing? Like, they don't care. It wasn't glaring at anybody I knew. And then, you know, I also feel like I'm trained since I live here to be a good to be a good host to the guests that are here. Like, you know, how many times you'll be out and people will ask you directions to something, or you're in Vaughn's and you're like, what are you looking for? And they're like, the cake. And you go, oh, it's down there. Cause you know, Vaughn's. So, you know, there's all, or that, you know, up north that you talk to the people that you run into that are visiting, because I think we're all trained in that way. I don't feel like that right now. So there's a little bit of disharmony within me around that. So I just came home because I couldn't deal, and I don't want to be mean to people. You know, that's not helpful. But at the same time, yeah, I'm not yet feeling less anger, unless I just stay away. I don't know if that's good either, but.
Can I ask a question? I'm just curious, is the anger mostly about people who are disrespectful of your community and your environment? Or is it people who are just coming in like maskless and like hordes of people, or both?
Yeah, I think it's more yes, I do feel strongly about those things. I think actually it's because I'm stressed. And that's one of the things where I go, oh, whoa, I'm really stressed. It's like yesterday something happened. There was a lot of thunder and lightning where I live last night or yesterday. And something very small happened, like I dropped a quarter or something. And I had the largest startle response where I jumped. I went, yeah, like that. And I was like, oh, okay. You gotta relax a little bit here. You gotta get yourself
your body's
out.
telling
Get
you.
away from the work. Oh,
your
totally.
body's telling you.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So yeah, and then
well, when you talk
I
about
have
anger,
the ability to get myself out. I have the ability to not be around people. You know, I'm not like most of my colleagues, or certainly the people that we work with, or the people that are, you know, really struggling to keep their businesses open. They have to figure out a way to manage all of this. I feel like a big baby in that way. Like, I'm just gonna go home, you know, because I can. So
you've got the choice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also pretty conflicting, because I've been home so long that when I do go out, I don't really want to go back home, but I don't want to be out either. So
exactly.
There's no space to be anymore.
That's
really,
a good way to say it.
Yeah, mentally it's a shift, but I'm sick of sitting on my couch.
Yeah. Also, you know, just adding to like the fact, like you can tell other people are stressed and they're anxious around you. You know, like I was mentioning to Robin, I was going to Vaughn's and I saw there was way too many people and it gave me anxiety, and I decided to just you know, go to somewhere else, go to the gas station just to get whatever basics, like I needed like water and stuff like that. So you can see it out there too. People are angry if someone cuts them in line or if they're not properly wearing their mask, and I just try to avoid that myself too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like people are encroaching on your space sometimes when you go someplace that you're used to having to yourself or to people that you know and they're strangers there. And they're like, I have a lot of second homeowners in my neighborhood that aren't normally here, especially in the summer. And they're loud and they're noisy in their cars, and I they have every right to be here, but they annoy the crap out of me. I was like, and I'm trying to be patient because they're my neighbors, but they're not always my neighbors. And it feels like they're encroaching on my summer. It's weird. That's why I'm taking a staycation next week. I have a pass to Yosemite for the week, and I'm just gonna day trip. Although that'll probably drive me crazy too, but we'll see.
It's not bad.
A lot of people there too right now. Yeah.
Well, it's for
It's
us,
not bad.
those of us who are used to going when it's crowded, with the limited number, it feels like a lot less people than what we're used to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think Stacy, you talked about this a couple weeks ago about cultivating compassion, right? How do you try to cultivate compassion for others when you're feeling so stressed and you're feeling so angry and resentful and annoyed? And it's not easy to do. It's really difficult to do. And I don't mean to be this like a constant plug for mindful meditation, but really it does help. It really helps. It sort of brings the emotional reactivity down. It sort of it helps you gain some control over that emotional reactivity. And having a compassion practice is like a lot farther down along the line of mindful meditation. But just doing the practice will help you when you're with your emotional regulation. Even if you're not thinking about it, you just become a little bit more, less reactionary. But as we all know, underneath that anger and that frustration is fear, right? I mean, we're all afraid. I mean, that's really what this is about, is everybody's so fearful. And anger is a lot easier to express than it is out in the world, than it is to be like, wow, this is really sad. This is really upsetting, So I think the more we can kind of tap into that and remember that oftentimes that anger and frustration is really about this profound sadness and loss that we're all feeling. Everybody, the more and more we can connect with others in our own way by kind of tapping into that. It's not easy to do. I'm not saying you can just like flip a switch and do it, but it takes conscious practice to try to do that. And if someone comes at you in an angry way, and I'm sure you're very accustomed to this now, as you said before, Stacey, and I know Ingrid, you talked about this too. These rants that come towards you, kind of try getting a little underneath it and saying, wow, it's really awful. It's really upsetting. It's really sad. It's almost like flipping it on its head. Someone's mad and you're kind of flipping it the other direction and feeding it back to them as another feeling, right? As another experience. Some people will take it, some people won't. They'll continue their rant, or they'll continue to be, difficult. But it's hard to cultivate it when you're already really activated yourself. So it's got to start with the self, right? It's like that oxygen mask. I think I talked about this maybe last time. I don't know, I feel like I talk about it all the time. You're taking the oxygen mask first. You got to do that self-care first and make sure that you're doing okay. Or else it's not going to work for our community.
So now my dogs are playing, so they're going to be noisy. But I want to remind people, if you have a question and an answer, a Q&A up there. If you have questions, answer, comments, you can do it anonymously or not. This is Coping in the COVID World, and we're here every other Wednesday evening at 5:30, which means the next time we'll be here will be on September 9th. Is that accurate? Somebody check me on that.
September 2nd.
September 2nd. Thank you, Olivia. And it's a community conversation. We really want to hear from you, or your dogs, or your cats, birds even. And it's part of one of the ways we're trying to just create connection within our community. Did I interrupt someone? Likely? Apologies if I did.
No, I was just making dog comments.
Oh, what were, yeah, on cue. So let's talk a little bit about connection. We got 10 more minutes. Let's talk a little bit, like that's one of the ways in which I think we can all feel better in the world and just keep our hearts open, in addition, not just around the tourists or people that we run into that we don't know, but making sure that we're maintaining the connections with people that we do know. And if anybody's like got some ideas about that, ways that they're doing that, writing letters, maybe buying stamps from the post office and then writing letters, or, you know, what y'all might be doing.
So, I had a question maybe. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh.
I had a question for the group, or maybe bounce something off of you. So I just had a close friend move away last week, and she was in my pod, in my Corona pod. And now I'm just kind of struggling with this. How do you make new friends? How do you meet someone else? And then how do you bring them back into your pod? Or how do you make that decision? Because there's just no social interaction anymore to like replace someone when they leave. I don't know. Do you guys have any advice?
Oh, I have to give them a COVID test.
Yeah, Robin, do you quarantine? Yeah, do you schedule quarantine? That's but it's kind of a commitment. Right?
And then like having a Zoom date, like, oh, maybe we can be friends. I don't know. Let's Zoom first.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. That is weird, Olivia. Yeah. Because you would meet them in some sort of social situation, or you go to Blue and you have a glass of wine or whatever, and you kind of decide whether you like this person, want to hang out with them, almost like dating, but not. But how do you do that in a COVID world? Have like a Zoom cocktail together? I don't know. It's weird.
And then all the networks that you lose, like all the mutual friends that you're missing out on, and the parties and the random occurrences, like that's the world. Your world becomes smaller and smaller if you lose people in your circle.
You know, one of the things that you're reminding me of, Olivia, is just how intentional everything has to be now. Like we don't have the spontaneous interaction. We talk about this at the job site, like the hallway conversation or whatever, but like just those, like, you know, you go to a place, even the post office, like you don't necessarily have those interactions like you used to. And how then that means that if you are going to see people, it has to be super intentional. And that some people are into that, some people aren't into that. I like to set up plans as long as I know that I can break them. Because even though I'm alone all the time now, I still do that thing that I do in all the rest of my life, which is that, you know, I really like seeing people. I love my friends and people. I love to see people, but then actually I don't really want to go out. So it's ridiculous, honestly. We don't have an answer for you, but we do share your situation.
Are you talking about meeting new people, or just seeing people? You're talking about meeting new people, or seeing people that you already know?
Probably meeting new people. Like we moved to town 2 years ago, so we know people, but we don't know that many people. So the expansion of our circle kind of ended pretty abruptly with COVID. And it's just something that I'm curious about, like moving forward. How do I meet people in the community? Or
I think a good idea is in the beginning, my friends and I were hosting Fridays are for Friends, and we would all meet up and do cocktails, and then we would each invite another friend we didn't have in common in our group. So we would invite, like I invited my friends when I used to live from Santa Barbara. So, and and then we all share our social media, and I guess we interact with that. So that was one cool way.
That's nice.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Having kids, I'm very hopeful that I'll meet new parents at least through Zoom, now that we're starting this virtual thing, right? Because I think when you become a parent, that's actually how you make most of your friends, is through your kids' sports and school, and so I know recently having to move up here to North County, yeah, we have no friends at all. So I'm like, I think that's one of the things as a parent that I look forward to school starting is like, ooh, is there going to be, you know, parent teacher, you know, Zoom meetings or something just to get to know the other parents.
So you could have kids.
Yeah.
Or you could do Friday with friends.
Yeah, that sounds better with a cocktail. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
What about the rest of you?
I guess we all have different levels of what's acceptable behavior, but because I'm out riding a bike so much, like mountain biking, way more than road biking. Mountain biking is kind of a solo sport, but you can go as a group and you're not right next to each other. So, and we run every other Thursday, my husband and I run the mountain bike team. So we see people from a distance, but we do have a lot of social interaction around that still. So I think being outside and seeing people out there helps a lot. You can still, you know, wear your face covering or whatever, go for a ride and see people and interact with people. You must have that in the climbing community a little bit, Olivia, no?
Oh yeah, for sure. But then I think the pod system is kind of deterring that. You only go climbing with people you know or you're comfortable with. And so it does kind of, you know, create the barriers of random interaction or more casual interaction. But yeah, that's one escape for sure.
Well, and there's such a different level of trust in climbing because you really have to, I mean, I can ride mountain bikes with anybody. I don't have to trust that they're going to not hurt me, that I'm safe with them. And climbing is a totally different gig. So, yeah.
We have a group of the dog walking people outside, you know, so you see the different, like up at Horseshoe early in the morning or after work, you know, that's another, at least I've been able to see some friends I haven't seen in a long time doing an outdoor dog walk, you know, so now instead of kids, I'm offering you to have a dog.
Dogs, kids, Amazon shopping, what else?
I don't even shop on Amazon.
Fill the void.
I don't know why I just said that, but I might have to do something to get my bag in order. That's a good one, dogs. It's hard anyway. It's hard to make friends here. So,
yeah.
Sorry, Stacy. What?
No, I was just saying, yeah. It's because of the dog walk. You tend to see the same people, or
oh yeah, routine. Yeah.
So you kind of get a social circle, but you're safely socially distanced from them. You know, you're standing 20 feet apart, kind of yelling at each other, and the dogs are playing.
I've been writing more.
So I guess the answer
letters.
is get a dog. That's the answer. Get a dog. We're coming full circle, right?
Or go out and talk to the dog people. I don't know.
Grow a dog?
I have 3. You can borrow one of them.
Anytime. Yeah.
I've been writing cards to people. I used to, my mom was really into writing cards. She wrote cards and postcards to people all through her life. And she had really big handwriting, so you got a sentence is pretty much what you would get. But just getting mail was really a thing when I was growing up. So I've been starting to just write mail. And I'm also randomly sending food gifts to people, which has been really fun too. So you never know, you might end up with one of those. Especially over here that we don't have a lot of variety, right? So
yeah.
I took that job jar that I staged for my Instagram photo when I was a kid. You couldn't leave on Saturday till they pulled 3 jobs from the job jar. And my sister said, I remember that, but I think now I would fill it with like intentional good things to do, like read a book, send a letter. So I rewrote all the little pieces of paper in there. You text a friend, call your dad, write a letter, send a gift. And so I'm going to start drawing. I don't know if it'll be every day, maybe once a week, draw something out of there and just go do it. Make a donation, because all the clothes that we're not wearing,
do that.
Get rid of them.
That's a great idea. That's really lovely.
Yeah. I want to do that too.
I'll make you one.
Okay.
That's a good idea. I could commit to trying that.
Right on.
We started doing, because we can't take a vacation, we all, it's similar to the jar kind of concept. Everybody in my family, I've got 4 people in my family, we all wrote down 5 places that we had interest in, like bucket list places that we wanted to travel to. So we put them in the little jar, and then we take one out a week, and we eat cuisine from that country or that location, and we watch YouTube, travel videos, and we like try to educate ourselves on it and listen to music from that country. It's really quite fun. It's really quite fun.
Right on.
Just trying to get creative with stuff,
Yeah. Wow, you guys have a lot of great ideas. I think we're about done here, depending on which clock I'm looking at. I want to thank all of you very much for being here. It turns out we'll be here next on the 2nd of September. Yes, September is only 2 weeks away. Coping in the COVID world. We really hope that you'll join us then. We'll talk about COVID, we'll talk about stress, we'll talk about how to maintain connection in our wonderful and beautiful community that is you. Anybody have any last minute things you want to say? Last words? Hang in there, have fun. All right, hang in there and have fun. Thank you very much for being here. And
Thanks,
we'll see you next
everyone.
time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Allison. Thanks, Olivia.
You're welcome.